Watch this.
So you told your attorney you don't want it?
Yeah, I told him and I told my PO.
And what'd they say?
That's my choice.
A Boise woman who did the crime and then did the time is willing to deny her presidential pardon for her involvement in the January 6th siege of the Capitol. She tells us why. It's an accident waiting to happen in Boise County. How can they respond to more than one emergency when most of their ambulances are in critical condition? Well, an anonymous source may have just resuscitated their life-saving services. How does one become a rancher in Idaho? Well, it could start with just one mama cow. The Heifer of the Year program is back, baby.
But at the same time, you kind of swallowed the big lie.
I did. I went along with everything I'm hearing. Yeah, I paid a big price for this.
That was Boise's Pam Hemphill, the day before she drove herself to California to start her 2-month federal prison sentence. The price she paid. A prison sentence she says she agreed to in a plea deal, signing off on one misdemeanor count of demonstrating, parading, or picketing inside the U.S. Capitol building. See, Pam was a J6er, the core believer that the 2020 presidential election was stolen by Joe Biden. So she participated in the storming of the Capitol on January 6th, 2021. And according to prosecutors, Pam repeatedly turned to police for help while, quote, simultaneously undermining their efforts. Well, that summer of 2022, when she went to prison, she became known as the MAGA Granny, a cancer patient who was wrongfully incarcerated in a California women's prison housed with cartel members and convicted murderers. But that's not the story Pam wants attached to her. She denied her victimhood when we spoke with her nearly 2 years ago. She has denied it countless times on national and international interviews since, and she denies it today. So much so, while she was included in the 1,500 plus January 6th pardons issued by President Trump Monday, Pam doesn't want to be. This morning, we asked her why and about her experience as a reformed J6er, beginning with what it was like in the federal women's prison in Dublin, California.
Nightmare. A nightmare. I'm claustrophobic. Thank God the doors are not locked, but you can't go out. You just learn to do it 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time. You focus on watching TV all day. That's all I did.
But even before you went, and even after, you've been kind of adamant, like, this is what you deserved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why?
I broke the law. It's just that simple. I had a choice. I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim. I could have left. No, I'm going to stay there and videotape. Morning, you guys.
Except, according to federal prosecutors, Pam did more than just videotape.
Walking down towards the Capitol.
With her phone recording for most of the morning and into the afternoon, Pam followed the crowd from the rally at the park to the Capitol.
We are being cheated, defrauded, undermined, dismissed, and neglected.
Where she believed they were going to be allowed through the barriers.
I gotta get out.
They weren't, but she was. Recovering from surgery, Pam says she struggled to keep up with the surge.
And an officer pulls me over him. So I thought, okay, he's letting me in first, so I go around. Oh my God, this is the worst part. Saying, come on in. What are you doing? It's our house. Just come on in. What are you doing? Just get in here. It's your house.
Back outside the barrier, it wouldn't take long for the crowd to follow her suggestion. Pam says she was swept along toward the Capitol steps, but they wouldn't stop there.
And when I got to the steps, they knocked me down and stepped on my head, pulled out my shoulder, broke my glasses. I was not breathing.
Are you hurt?
If it wasn't for the Capitol police officers, I wouldn't be here.
You gotta go. I gotta, come on.
Because I couldn't breathe. They pulled me up and put me behind them.
The turning point for Pam came weeks and months later, as she learned how much of the Stop the Steal movement was based on lies.
They're lying about everything, and I showed me a chart about the doors they claimed were being opened by the officers, and they were not. Everything. Starting with Trump saying the election was stolen. That's where it all started. It wasn't stolen.
So you went to prison for 2 months.
Yep.
How many days?
60 days.
60 days. And now you've been told by your attorney that you have a pardon.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm not going to take it. I got to do some research today to find out who I contact to refuse it.
Why do you want to?
Think about it. The message is, if I took a pardon, that what I did that day was okay. They were criminals. They broke the law. I broke the law. Pay the price.
You have been speaking out a lot.
Yeah, for the last year and a half.
Why is that?
It's my amends for ever being there that day. It's my amends. The least I can do, compared to what the Capitol police officers went through that day. Oh my God. And they still haven't put up that plaque for them. Let's get that plaque up for those Capitol police officers. That's the least we can do for them. The least. That's my hope, one day to meet them and hug them and say, I'm so sorry I was ever there that day. I was a part of that garbage. You know what I mean?
Still pretty raw.
I've got to live the rest of my life knowing I was there, a part of it, cheering it on. I'm really sorry. Sorry can't get it, though. That's why I've got to speak out, be vulnerable, death threats, whatever. I have to feel that I've done the best I can to let others know that what happened that day was wrong. It was an insurrection. They are criminals.
Do you think one voice can make a difference?
I think so. Rosa Parks, she just did the right thing. That's all she did. That's all she did. It's the right thing to do, to let people know that I was wrong that day, and we all were wrong that day.
But to be clear, Pam is not likening herself to Rosa Parks. But Pam is currently cancer-free, by the way, and has 8 months left on her probation, and she says she'll gladly serve it. She adds she worries these pardons will open the door to new parameters of what it means to have a peaceful protest. Pam says since she got out of prison in September of 2022, she has been very vocal about distancing herself and criticizing other J6ers for not doing the same. And that has garnered her a great deal of harassment and even death threats, she says. She's lost a lot of friends and family members and even MAGA faithful over this, but she's not too worried about those things. And it's not going to stop her from speaking out. If she is able to help one person, she says, still stuck in the cycle of considering themselves a victim when it comes to January 6th, it'll be worth it, Pam told us. Speaking of other J6ers, there were at least 6 other Idahoans charged for taking part in the Capitol riot. So let's go alphabetically, kind of tell you what they're doing. Beginning with Josiah Colt of Meridian. He was the guy that was seen hanging from the Senate balcony railing that day, then sat in the vice president's chair. Remember him? Well, Colt pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 15 months in prison back in May of 2023. Theo Hansen of Nampa was the last Idahoan charged in November of 2023. Hansen faced felony obstruction of an official proceeding and civil disorder. At least he did until yesterday. Michael Pope of Sandpoint was charged with multiple crimes, including 2 felonies. Boise's Yvonne St. Cyr, she was sentenced to 30 months in federal prison for her role in obstructing and interfering with police during a civil disorder, which is a felony. Afterwards, the 55-year-old, after she was convicted and sentenced, the 55-year-old said she now understood what Jesus felt like in the garden. Tyler, too, of Idaho Falls pleaded guilty and was given 2 years probation and a $2,000 fine. Finally, Duke Wilson of Nampa also pleaded guilty and in March of 2022 was handed one of the harshest penalties at the time, 4 years and 3 months in prison. Wilson actually assaulted police that day, picking up a flagpole and used it as a weapon against officers in the Capitol building tunnel. There was a law passed in 2022 to put up a plaque to honor the 140 police officers injured during the attack on the Capitol. You heard Pam mention it. It was supposed to be installed on the west front of the Capitol complex, and it was supposed to be done by March of 2023. However, it's been up to House Republicans to make it happen, and they haven't, despite a letter sent by 60 House Democrats to House Speaker Mike Johnson, who hasn't made any move to put the plaque in its proper place. Last fall, the East Boise County Ambulance District asked voters for help so they could continue to help them. The current property taxes weren't enough to pay for their growing costs, so they wanted to dissolve their established district and create a new one with a higher levy rate. Well, good news, voters agreed and they approved the changes. Bad news, those funds won't come until next year, 2026. So now, in this gap year, East Boise County had to face one of its biggest fears, a critical emergency with 2 or 3 of their ambulances out of commission and needing major repairs. Espen Schumpert has more about how they're quickly trying to come up with a plan.
A majority of East Boise County's ambulance fleet is out of service, making it difficult to respond to the community's emergencies because they're dealing with one of their own.
Right now we're struggling.
Director of Operations for the East Boise County Ambulance District, Mary Adams, says 3 of their 4 ambulances broke down.
We had 2 of them down at the same exact time. Then while those 2 were down, another one went down.
There was a fire in one of the rig's heating module, a damaged axle in another.
Felt like the tire blew, the ambulance started shaking out of control. It was actually pretty scary.
With 3 ambulances out of service, emergency medical responses in this community are drastically limited.
We've been getting a lot of calls where we have 2 calls at one time, so that limits the amount of how we respond.
As a temporary Band-Aid, the district found another ambulance to use, but it isn't ideal.
We had a loaner ambulance from Acute, which is absolutely amazing. The only problem was that it was a 2-wheel drive. And as many people know about Boise County, this is a 4-wheel drive area that we have to have. So it would limit the areas in which we had to respond to.
In this mountainous region, 4-wheel drive isn't just preferred, it's necessary.
Centerville Road is one of our big ones that we go over, Wilderness Ranch. They're all mountain roads, so with the weather, the road conditions, we have to have those 4-wheel drives. 2-wheel drives just don't make it.
Adams says the district was forced to move its last working ambulance to a more central spot at its Idaho City headquarters.
The only option I had was to go up to Loman and grab the Loman ambulance and bring it down temporarily till the other ambulances are broken. It's not going to stay here. It is going to go back up.
Voters approved a levy increase in November that will add money to the district's budget, but it won't be here in time to help with these immediate repair needs.
It was one of my main and my biggest worries was, what if all our ambulances go down? What are we going to do? Our levy does not start till 2026, so we will not get any taxes from the new levy till January 2026.
Adams told me the district is doing what it can to keep emergency services running with very limited resources. But as we heard her say, only having 2 or 1 ambulance available, if multiple calls come in, someone will have to wait and there could be unavoidable delays. Now, Brian, I do want to bring some happy news to the end of this story. Just before the show, we got an update actually from the district that a private donor came forward and gave them $25,000. And the district tells me that's going to take care of a lot of these repair costs that they're seeing for these 3 ambulances. I know one of them is $16,000 estimate to repair. They haven't got the other 2 yet. They should be significantly lower. So they should be able to take care of repairs. They're still going to be out of commission of ambulances until those are done. But what a gracious donation.
That's awesome. But the fact that they have to rely on donations and taxes as opposed to, well, we talked about this before, the state not considering them essential services. Right?
Yeah, and that makes them turn to private donors and donations or levy rates, which we've seen a lot of the ambulance districts do in the last several years.
They've tried to address this a couple times in the legislature to kind of get them to recognize it and get state funding, but so far that hasn't happened. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Aspen. Well, after a semi-day off yesterday, lawmakers hitting the ground running today, at least on the House side. Senate seems to be kind of taking their time a little bit with this session. Hunter Funk is going to tell us the latest with the legislature.
With the stroke of a pen, President Donald Trump has put the brakes on the proposed Lava Ridge wind project in southern Idaho. The project would have put hundreds of power-generating windmills across thousands of acres in parts of Jerome, Lincoln, and Minidoka counties. Trump signed an executive order placing a temporary moratorium on all activities related to the project yesterday. The order states the Secretary of the Interior will review the record of decision issued by the Bureau of Land Management last month and issued a new analysis. All of our state leaders are in favor of the executive order.
If we can maintain an optic that says you will be punished, that crime does not pay, in fact it costs, and it costs extra, that is a good thing.
Sentencing for possession of marijuana is already strong, it is already vigorous, and it is already tough in this state.
I called home on this one. The judge that I spoke with said, leave this one alone. We need the discretion.
And if you can't pay the fine, don't do the crime.
We've said it once and we will say it again. This legislative session is all about rinse and repeat. Like the bill giving marijuana a mandatory minimum fine of $300 if you're found with 3 ounces or less, with the exceptions of minors, of course. The bill hit the House floor today with more testimony against than for, but passed onto the Senate with a vote of 54-14. For the second year in a row, there's a bill trying to expand the Attorney General's power to include investigating and prosecuting elected city officials in addition to elected county officials.
A whistleblower comes forward and files a complaint to the police chief. They work under the council. If it goes to the prosecuting attorney, most cities contract through them.
The bill passed the House with a vote of 56-11 and now heads to the Senate. A representative from Horseshoe Bend introduced a bill to committee banning mask mandates in Idaho, except for healthcare workers. It's another bill we're rolling back and trying again this year after it didn't pass last session. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Hunter Funk.
How about a free cow? Well, you better have the land for it because you could possibly get one with the reinstated Heifer of the Year program. We'll explain. And we may have some more explaining to do. Text us your questions, your comments, and your concerns to 208-321-5614. As always, include your name and the hashtag #the208. Of course, we like them clean, concise, and clever. We also like them as voicemails, so try that too. It's one of the oldest professions in America. Not that. According to the U.S. Department of Ag census, about 40% of farmers and ranchers are over the age of 65. The average age also continues to rise, and right now that settles in around 58 years old. You talk to most sectors in the ag industry, and they're all trying to find ways to bring in more young people. For the Idaho cattle industry, well, they're bringing back a program after it died during the pandemic. It is called and was called the Heifer of the Year program, and as Hunter Funk explains, it's helping get young people get their start into this. How does this work?
Yeah, well, first, it's been around for about 30 years or so before it died off. Now, there's a strong interest now from producers to bring it back, so that's why they did it. Now, the Idaho Cattle Association invited high school students from across Idaho to compete for their chance to win their very own heifer. These students had to complete a 40-question test and answer several essay questions about the Idaho beef industry. Now, several producers volunteered to donate a heifer, and from those, they did a drawing, and a producer from Twin Falls was picked to give their purebred young cow to the winner. Well, the Idaho Cattle Association says once they give the heifer to the student, they continue to keep in touch and mentor the young producer. It's helping take out the upfront cost to start breeding.
There's an opportunity for a young person may not be able to go out and purchase that animal and would like to be involved in the beef industry. That's what we're looking for there, to help kickstart them, help jumpstart, and and this one really turned out to be a very good candidate.
This year's candidate from Kuna, Idaho, he owes it to his FFA advisor for letting him know the scholarship program even exists. Well, coming up at 6, we're going to hear from the 14-year-old who won the scholarship and what it means to bring the heifer home to his family's ranch.
Because there's an upfront cost that goes along with this, plus the continual feeding of this animal.
Yeah, I mean, upfront cost $3,000.
No kidding.
And to get a nice one too. I mean,
something that you want to breed and continue that lineage. Yeah.
Yeah,
big deal.
100%.
All right, tune in at 6. Thanks, Hunter.
After another frigid start this morning, northerly flow aloft kept our high temperatures in colder than average territory once again today. Boise managed to get to the freezing mark along with Caldwell. Nampa hit 30 today. Twin Falls at 33 degrees. Haley, Sun Valley area didn't get out of the teens this afternoon, and already Sun Valley down to 12 as we inch closer to sunset. Temperatures dropping pretty quickly. 28 in Twin Falls. We're at 21 with a gorgeous sunset happening over Payette Lake and McCall. Very quiet conditions across the northwest as high pressure off the west coast holds steady. We see a little bit of light snow rolling across Montana, but for us, it's just a few clouds overhead. Tomorrow, rinse and repeat. We'll tack on a couple more degrees of warmth. It won't feel all that warm, though. 35 degrees with sunshine and light winds, but any little puff of wind when it's this cold will kind of take your breath away. So another day where you need to bundle up and plan for the conditions, especially in the morning. Low temperatures expected to drop below zero again in Stanley. Single digits for McCall and Haley. In the teens for Twin Falls, Boise, Nampa, Mountain Home. Down to 12 degrees tomorrow, and high temperatures again inch up a little bit. Ontario may hit 40. We're looking at upper 30s for the rest of the Treasure Valley, mid 30s in the Magic Valley tomorrow. Then we hold steady on Thursday. Come Friday, a system does drop in from the north that will whip up the winds, may bring a quick shot of snow to the mountains. Otherwise, we are dry, cold, and clear long term all the way through the final weekend of January and beyond.
We got a couple comments today about what's happening in East Boise County when it comes to the ambulance services and needing money to kind of fulfill or, I guess, fix their ambulances. East Boise service, why not make one-time funding to help a public need from the rainy day fund? Rural Idaho would benefit the most. No brainer, says Rick. Another person said, why can't the state just back them until next year? Well, I guess it would mean that a lot of applications for those kind of services, and then they'd have to hire somebody to take care of that. But I guess, I don't know, not even consideration. Unbelievable. A Republican that actually accepts facts and can admit she was wrong. Thank you, Pam, says Dan in Garden City. We've had a lot of people sending compliments to Pam Hemphill for her, well, standing up and saying, I'm not going to take that pardon issued by President Trump. How can anyone claim to back the blue and support these pardons? The party of law and order? Give me a break. This one from Greg says, thank goodness for the moral fortitude of Pam for speaking the truth about January 6th and what happened that day. Too bad our elected officials don't have the courage and integrity. Glad her health has improved. Regular Idahoans are proud of her. And finally, thank you, Pam Hemphill. I will try to process my shortcomings as humbly as she has. Well, thank you for your kind words. I'm sure she appreciates it as well. We're going to try to do it all again tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.